In this video, we're going to be covering how to write a book with a ghostwriter. This process could make or break your book project, so stay tuned for more tips. By the end of this video, you will figure out how to establish the book's foundation, the key to productive meetings, and the best ways to provide feedback to your ghostwriter. I'll also share the meeting frequency that builds the best momentum. And stay tuned to the end of this video because I have something free to offer you. Let's dive in. The most important process involved in working with your ghostwriter is establishing three things with your book: the hook, the outline, and the audience. Those are the three foundational elements that are going to drive the project forward. And if you can't do those things and really sort those things out early in the process, you're going to have a lot of problems. The hook is really the central theme of the book. It's the takeaway. It's the thing that people are going to carry with them. You know, what's the lesson that they're going to learn? How are they going to carry this forward in their life? Why should they care about this book? You know, if you're thinking about an elevator pitch, this is it. You know, if you can describe your book in 1 to 2 sentences and really hammer home what this means and how it's going to help people, it's going to be a huge thing for you. And it's so important to figure that out, because the sooner you can figure out the book's hook, the better off you're going to be, because it's going to set the tone for everything else that you do with the book. Specifically the outline, the table of contents, the chapters, the format, the style that you use to carry the book's message forward. You know, all of those things are in connection to the hook. So when you have the hook in place, the outline's going to follow. If it's going to be like bike spokes, it's going to be the spokes of the bike, where the central thing in the middle is the hook, and the spokes are the chapters carrying and conveying that hook forward. It's also important to figure out the outline, because when you do, you can figure out what's inside or outside the frame of the book. You don't want to end up writing tons and tons of material that's not going to be useful to the book writing, to the book itself, that's going to be cut eventually. You don't want to explore and spend 6 months writing chapters that are not going to see the light of day. You know, that's not to say that you don't take some risks and chances and try some things out and see if they work and if they don't. And that's also not to say that you might not prune a couple chapters and take them out through the process, you know, but you don't want to spend a lot of time working on chapters that aren't going to be in the book. So you really want to establish the outline, figure out what it's all about, and set the table for yourself as you write the book. Audience is another key point to the book writing process. Audience is crucial because you really want to tap into who your book is for. Because if you don't do that, it's really tough to find that audience. It's really tough to stumble on an audience. You know, you look at different topics and there's so many wide-ranging options for who this book is for. You know, you take, for example, baseball books. You know, you could look at a children's biography about Babe Ruth. That's going to read a lot differently than a book like Moneyball by Michael Lewis, which is about, you know, the inner workings of the game and finding value in different players. Those are for two very different audiences, and they're for two very different readerships. So it's important to burrow down on audience as you're figuring out what the book is about and as you work with your ghostwriter. When you work with your ghostwriter, the key to that relationship is meetings, is really spending time talking through areas of the book. You know, and when I figure out the hook, the outline, and the audience with a client, we talk every week through different chapters. And it's really important to be able to have that conversation, because then we can focus specifically on key points in the book and talk through them. And then I can deliver content based on that chapter, based on that conversation. You know, talking through the chapters allows me to capture the person's voice that I'm working with. It also allows them to get out everything they want to say within this chapter. And it also allows them to explore. You know, maybe they talk through areas and say, you know, let's not include that. But it's good to talk through those things and really figure out what you want to include in the book. Another key point to the collaboration with your ghostwriter is providing feedback. You know, I've seen projects derailed by feedback that doesn't hit the mark. And what I mean by that is the person will receive the chapters after I write them, and they won't provide feedback. And they'll say, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. Chapter after chapter after chapter. And then we get 8 or 10 chapters and they say, you know what, I'm not really happy with how the book is going, which means we've probably wasted a lot of time to get to that point. You know, if it's something that happens in chapter 1, maybe they don't like the style of the book, or they don't like the style of the writing, or they want to make a change. It's important to bring those things up early as you can. I find when those issues emerge and we can have a conversation about it, it actually breaks new ground on the relationship and on the book, you know, because I want to hit those pain points and talk through them. Those pain points are crucial to the process. You know, if we don't address those pain points, it's like issues on, you know, that clump underneath the rug. You know, there's all these lumps in the rug, and then, you know, how can you walk across that? I mean, it's really, really tough to be able to carry forward when there's issues emerging and there's not a clear communication about them. I find that there's 2 really good ways to provide feedback to your ghostwriter once they finish the chapter, and that is through track changes in either Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Yeah, and another option is to record audio and provide feedback that way. You know, I have people I work with who will record audio as they read through the draft and say, you know, on page 15, this spot doesn't sound exactly right, or I have a story to add in this section. You know, let's talk about it further. You know, it sparks a conversation, but it also provides immediate feedback, and it keeps the project moving forward, because then we can actually talk through it and, you know, keep the process moving forward. I found through all the projects I've worked on that a weekly meeting cadence is actually the best for meetings between a ghostwriter and an author. And the reason being is that it provides accountability. Every single time, every single week, there's new material to be delivered, and there's also a conversation about it. So whenever you start the next meeting, there's a chance to talk through the latest delivery. Say, hey, what did you think about the chapter? That's a great conversation. Then you can dive into whatever the topic is that week. I have other people who I meet with monthly. I have other people I meet with more than weekly, you know, multiple times in a week. I find both of those options aren't as clear-cut, because when you're meeting more than once a week, it means that there's less writing time, less time to actually work on the book for the ghostwriter, because they're in meetings. Yeah, obviously at the beginning of the project, when you're planning things out, it makes a lot of sense to have multiple meetings in a week. But as the writing really picks up, you want the ghostwriter to be able to do their best work. And if they're meeting multiple times a week with you, it means that they don't have as much time to do that. When you're meeting monthly, it's the opposite. It's not frequent enough, and there's too many things that can slip through the cracks. So there can be a lot of writing done, but there's not a lot of feedback, there's not a lot of communication back and forth, and I feel like things get lost in the mix. It can be done, it's just not as sharp, it's not as clear. If you want to learn more about writing and ghostwriting, head to my website, goodghostwriter.com, the link's below, and check out my free emails, check out the information and tips I have to provide. Also, feel free to sign up for a free booking call with me. I want to hear about your book. I'm interested in learning more and interested to see how I can help guide you in the right direction. Remember, good ghostwriting makes great books. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.